Are there any senators who have not yet voted or wish to change their vote? If not, on this vote, the yeas are 41, the nays are 59. Under the previous order requiring 60 votes for the adoption of this amendment, the amendment is not agreed to. Under the previous order, motions to reconsider the previous two votes are considered made and land on the table.
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
There will be no more roll call votes this week. We'll work on next week's schedule later today. I would ask unanimous consent that the senators from Massachusetts, Senator Kerry and Brown, be recognized for up to 10 minutes each. Following that time, I be recognized.
Without objection.
Mr. President.
Senator from Massachusetts.
Mr. President, before Mayor Menino accused the duck boats for the victory parade in Boston on Saturday, I wanted to take a moment with my colleague here on the Senate floor to celebrate a really extraordinary victory by the Boston Bruins. After a really grueling 39 years of so many ups and downs, heartbreaking misses and almosts, the Stanley Cup is coming back to Boston. And that is thanks to the extraordinary grit of a special hockey team, a team that had really remarkable character. I have to say, and I say this, I hope cautiously, because I know pride comes before a fall, but nevertheless, we in Massachusetts are blessed with an embarrassment of riches right now, because the last night's heart-stopping Game 7 victory against the Vancouver Canucks is now allowing us to celebrate our 7th championship for our city in the last decade. And again, I know pride comes before the fall, but sweeping the Yankees a weekend ago and now winning this isn't too bad. So as a lifelong hockey fan and a guy who still tries to get around a rink occasionally when my hips allow me to do that, the Bruins win last night really was one of the sweetest ever. And that's partly because it was in such a long time coming, but it's also because of the determination that this team showed in getting there. Not since 1972 have the Bruins brought home the coveted Stanley Cup, and not since the 1970 championship with the legendary Bobby Orr's flying goal has there been so much for Boston hockey fans to cheer about. This Boston Bruins team made history, not just in the championship, but in the way they got there. They're the first team in NHL history to win a Game 7 3 times in the same postseason. They did it with a kind of hard-nosed, selfless, remember the fundamentals, play the basics, gritty kind of teamwork that we in Boston admire so much. And during the Bruins' run to the championship, we got to witness a very special kind of pride and encouragement that came from our city. There was a black and gold Bruins jersey on the statue of Paul Revere. Before Game 7, everybody got to see our injured forward, Nathan Horton, pouring a bottle of Boston water onto the Vancouver ice. This team couldn't and wouldn't lose at home, and last night, Horton's magic water turned Vancouver into our home ice. And today, all of New England is home for the world's champion Boston Bruins. I have to say that with last night's victory, yet another Bruin legend was born, goalie Tim Thomas. In 7 spectacular games, again and again, Tim turned back Vancouver and held the Canucks to 8 goals only in the entire series. In the final shutout, Tim had 37 saves, so it was more than appropriate that he was named the playoffs' most valuable player. And I'd say that what Curt Schilling was to the 2004 Red Sox, Tim Thomas is to the Bruins today. Mr. President, this Stanley Cup win is a victory for everyone in Massachusetts who's ever laced up a skate and braved black ice on frozen ponds early in the morning, to every parent who's ever packed their kids into a minivan at 4 in the morning to get to practice, for everyone who remembers their heart skipping a beat when Bobby Orr sailed through the air in victory, for everyone who never stopped rooting for this team over a 4-decade drought, we hear our own voices in the words of Tim Thomas last night when he proclaimed, "You've been waiting for it for a long time, but you got it. You wanted it, you got it, we're bringing it home." Just as it was for the Red Sox for a long time, some people said this day was never going to come. And just as it was for the Red Sox and a curse that we no longer hear much about, some even blamed fate for the drought. But after last night, Mr. President, Boston proved once again, never underestimate an underdog. And so final score, Bruins 1, fate 0. I'm proud to offer my congratulations to the Bruins players, the coaches, the front office, for a great series, for a great season, and for being great champions. This team never quit. They never lost focus. They believed in themselves as individuals, and above all, they believed in themselves as a team. So we can't wait for Saturday, when we will see the city of Boston's reflection in the polished silver and nickel of Lord Stanley's Cup. Welcome back to Boston.
That was great. Mr. President.
Senator from Massachusetts.
Thank you very much. It was great. I'm honored to be able to speak as well with my friend and colleague, Senator Kerry, to celebrate something that I was 11 years old when it last happened. And I come to the floor, obviously, to recognize the Boston Bruins in their thrilling season and 4-0 victory last night in Game 7 over Vancouver in the Stanley Cup Finals. And I enjoy not being an avid skater like Senator Kerry. I still am amazed at the way that they just go all out and then just slam each other up against the boards, and they actually get up. I find that amazing. And obviously they're bringing the cup back, as Senator Kerry said, for the first time since 1972. We actually have a couple of Boston fans up in the gallery. All right. And as you know, it's also the home of the Beanpot Tournament and some of the best college hockey in the country. And the Bruins made history last night by becoming the first team in the NHL to win 3 deciding Game 7 in a single playoff run, twice rebounding from being down 2 games to none. And for Bruins fans, including myself and everybody I was with last night, we were very, very excited. And the victories over Montreal, then Philly, Tampa, and finally Vancouver, it made for a memorable run. And being the big underdog before the series began, the Bruins played inspired hockey to win Lord Stanley's Cup, and they did it as a team. They played outstanding defense against one of the best offensive teams that many have seen in a long time. And Bostonians will never, ever forget the sight of Captain Chara standing 6 feet 9 inches tall, which I find truly amazing, and accepting the Stanley Cup and lifting it high above the ice. He led the incredible defensive effort in that series. It was also an unforgettable moment for NHL veteran Mark Recchi, playing in his final NHL game last night. He capped a great career, the way most professional hockey players can only dream about, with the Stanley Cup in his hands, moving around the ice. And last night he said it was one of the best groups of players he's ever played with. And for those of us who watched can attest that it was one fun team to watch. It was just a lot of fun, and everyone was so excited, regardless of whether you were a Bruins fan or not, just to see the intensity that series was played. It was a mixture of youth and experience, hard physical play, great scoring touch that helped put together this run. And Brad Marchand, the Bruins rookie, has become a household name also with hockey fans after scoring an impressive 11 goals throughout the playoffs, setting a record for the most playoff goals by a Boston rookie and tying for second most in NHL history. And Patrice Bergeron, coming back from an injury that cost him 2 games earlier in the playoffs, scored the first goal in Game 7 that set the tone. And as Senator Kerry said, our clutch goalie, Tim Thomas, I mean, I didn't know a body could move like that, quite frankly. and he took home the Conn Smythe Trophy for the most valuable player, and rightly so, during the playoffs. He was literally unbeatable with shutouts in Game 4 and 7. Behind the bench, as you know, Coach Claude Julien led the Bees with quiet confidence, even as his team faced daunting deficits and a devastating loss of forward Nathan Horton, as was referenced. So aptly Dunn took some Boston water and put it on the ice to make it our home ice. This is a vindication for Team President Cam Neely, a Bruin great for so many years. Peter Chiarelli, the general manager, who put this great team together, and Jeremy Jacobs and his team as well. With the Bruins Stanley Cup victory, the city of Boston can, in a classy manner, celebrate its victory, as we've done before. And as Senator Kerry also pointed out, we are very, very blessed in Massachusetts and New England to have the Patriots, Red Sox, and Celtics to round out a decade that includes many world championships. And upon the arrival of the Stanley Cup in Boston, today the Bay State has hosted all 4 major championship trophies since 2005. As we all know, since 2002, the Patriots have won the Lombardi Trophy 3 times. Red Sox have captured the World Series trophy twice, and the Celtics have earned the O'Brien NBA title trophy once. It's an unprecedented run in sports history. No longer left out, the Bruins can join a highly decorated group of teams that has never been matched. And I didn't come down to the floor to brag about Boston's reputation as the home of the greatest champions in professional sports. No, Mr. President, I have to say that the evidence is pretty compelling on its own. So with great pride, as the junior senator from Massachusetts, today I also honor the 2011 Boston Bruins for their remarkable season and commend them for their relentless pursuit of Lord Stanley's Cup. Another championship banner will hang from the rafters of the TD Bank Garden, and I'm very optimistic it will not be the last one for Boston, the hub of hockey. Thank you, Madam President. I yield the floor.
Madam President, before our time expires, Madam President. Madam President, listening to my colleague from Massachusetts reminding me that Captain Chara, the defenseman who raised the cup last night, is the tallest person ever to play in the National Hockey League. It reminds me, therefore, that we are also making history because never has the Stanley Cup been held so high over the ice. Thank you.
Madam President.
Senator from Nevada.
I'm happy to be here to listen to my friends talk about hockey. And I'll talk just a minute about hockey. I was raised in the desert. And when we came back here, I came back here as a member of Congress, I wanted my boys to watch a hockey game, and I wanted to watch one. I'd never watched one. So we went to a hockey game. I'll tell you, it's a game you have to learn something about. For me, walking with no experience, it was pretty difficult. They're on the ice just a few minutes, and they're off, and back and forth. It's hard to keep track of all that. But I did have the opportunity to twice to watch the great Gretzky, and that was a good experience. But my most harrowing, one of my most difficult, scary experiences in my life, there was a time when, I still do, Las Vegas had a minor league hockey team, and I was asked to go out in the middle of that ice and drop a puck. I don't do very well, as indicated when a few weeks ago I slipped and fell and dislocated my shoulder on regular dirt. So to walk out on that ice, Madam President, was something that was frightening to me, and I've never forgotten that. So to have those men rush up and down those rinks the way they do is truly astounding. And my only heroism in hockey was my own heroism in convincing myself I should go out there. Okay, Madam President, our staffs have been working diligently for days now to find a path that would allow the Senate to complete action on the jobs bill, which is now on the floor. They've worked so hard on this bill because this bill is legislation to reauthorize the successful Economic Development Agency, so important to this country since 1965. It's not a Obama piece of legislation. It was started by Richard Nixon, and every president since then, Democrat and Republican, have wrapped their arms around this legislation because it's so good for our country. The Economic Development Administration has created jobs where they're most needed. in economically distressed communities. In just the last 5 years, for $1.2 billion of investment, we've created 314,000 jobs. The merits of reauthorizing this job-creating administration are so very, very clear. EDA works with businesses, universities, and leaders at the local level, so it creates jobs from the bottom up. For every dollar we invest as a government, we get $7 in return. It helps manufacturers, producers compete in the global marketplace. And it's a great investment. Every dollar from EDA, as I've indicated, attracts $7 in private sector investment. That's a pretty good return. Because of this agency's success, and because each senator is on record talking about the importance of creating jobs, Senator Boxer, the chair of that most important committee, the Environment and Public Works Committee, in her capacity as chairman of the Public Works aspect of their her committee, she's produced this bill, and she's shown me statements by virtually every senator in this chamber about the merits of this bill, Democrats and Republicans alike. So this is the kind of bill that should pass on a bipartisan basis, if not unanimously. And it has passed in the past unanimously. In the past, that's what would have happened. We would have done this so quickly, but no more. Now we find ourselves struggling just to bring it up for a vote. I heard the Republican leader this morning speak earlier about the state of play on the EDA bill. He said, well, we got this done, but we got this to do and this to do and this to do. Here's a brief review so far what we've had on this bill. We've already had votes, again on matters totally unrelated to this bill. Swipe fees, regulatory reform, ethanol, 3 votes on that. We have 70 amendments that have been filed. We have pending now a number of amendments related to the debt limit, to Wall Street reform, health reform, Davis-Bacon, and 66 others that could be pending. In addition, senators have filed amendments that are related to immigration reform, border fence, E-Verify, the estate tax, right-to-work laws, gainful employment regulation, a series of amendments dealing with the endangered species, light bulbs and other energy-efficient provisions. Not a single amendment that has anything to do with this bill. Not a single thing that is germane to this bill. So, Madam President, I'm going to continue to work with the Republican leader, hopefully find a way to complete action on this extremely important bill. But it seems so far to be a never-ending process. It's filibuster by amendment, amendment after amendment after amendment, on amendments that have nothing to do with the legislation. We can't continue this. This process has to end so we can pass this bill, let the private sector create jobs the American people need, and let the Senate move on to other pressing matters. I hope we can work something out. But in the meantime, I have no alternative as the leader of this Senate but to file cloture on this bill, and I sent a cloture motion to the desk.
The clerk will report the cloture motion.
Cloture motion. Committee undersigned senators, in accordance with the provisions of Rule 22 of the Standing Rules of the Senate, hereby move to bring to a close the debate on Act 782, a bill to amend the Public Works and Economic Development Act of 1965 to reauthorize that act and for other purposes, signed by 17 senators as follows: Reid of Nevada, Boxer, Lautenberg, Carper, Brown of Ohio, Whitehouse, Casey, Coons, Tester, Cardin, Udall of New Mexico, Shaheen, Stabenow, Murray, Conrad, Durbin, and Manchin.
I now move to proceed to calendar number 75S679, the Presidential Appointment Efficiency and Streamlining Act.
Motion to proceed is now pending.
Madam President, I want to say a word before I leave the floor to and about my friend, the senator from California. As I've indicated, chair of this most important committee, Environment and Public Works, which I had the good fortune of chairing on 2 separate occasions. She has been tireless in bringing legislation to this floor and attempting to. She's been talking about this bill for months, about how good it is, and when she sat down and reminded me of the merits of this legislation, I thought, this should be a good one. A job-creating measure, we need that right now, and I've been very disappointed that we haven't been able to move forward. But it is not because of any lack of effort on her behalf. She and I came to Washington together many, many years ago and served together in the House of Representatives. She's my friend, but she's also one of the most outstanding legislators we've had in this body, bar none. I ask now that we proceed to a period of morning business until 6 p.m. this evening, with senators permitted to speak for up to 10 minutes each during that time.
Without objection, so ordered.
Could you take down?
Senator from California.
Madam President, I want to thank the senator from Nevada, my friend, the Majority Leader, Senator Reid, for his remarks. And I want to thank him for filing cloture on the EDA bill, the Economic Development Administration. He said it was started by Richard Nixon. Actually, it was continued by Richard Nixon. It was started by Lyndon Johnson and supported by every single president since 1965, whether they were Republican, a Democrat, a liberal, a moderate, or a conservative. Every Congress has supported this. The last time the EDA was authorized, it was authorized, Madam President, by a voice vote when George W. Bush was president, and he signed it into law. So one has to ask oneself, why do we find ourselves in the middle of a filibuster? Why do we find ourselves with 77 amendments pending to this little bill that takes a $500 million authorization and, because of the effect it has on the private sector, draws in private sector matching funds 7-to-1, and means it's a $3.5 billion a year, basically, jobs bill. This is a jobs bill. Every Republican and every Democrat I know around here says jobs, jobs, jobs. But they're killing another jobs bill. And I think the American people have to understand, this list of amendments, do you have the list, that have been filed? Senator Reid went through a few of them. There's even one that relates to the prairie chicken. Now, with all due respect, there may be a lot of issues surrounding the prairie chicken, but it has nothing to do with an Economic Development Act bill. It goes on and on. It talks about protecting free choice for workers to refrain from participating in labor unions. This sounds familiar from a governor from the Midwest. It talks about amending the Unfunded Mandates Reform Act. Let's face it, we weren't born yesterday. I wish I was, but I wasn't. And the fact is, this is too small to even show up on the screen. 3 pages, I think we're up over 81 amendments to this bill, which is a jobs bill, which is a simple bill to reauthorize the Economic Development Administration's programs. EDA is a great job creator. And in our committee, Madam President, every single Democrat and Republican, save one individual, voted for this bill. So it's bipartisan. It's been supported by every president since Lyndon Johnson. It has created, over time, millions of jobs. And we know this particular bill, at its current funding level, would support 200,000 jobs a year or 1 million jobs over 5 years, and they're good jobs. How does that happen? Because the EDA goes into local communities that have high unemployment rates. They bring together the local governments, the state government, the private sector, the nonprofits, and they say, what do you want to do here to attract industry, to attract consumers here? What do you want to do to rehabilitate this community? Sometimes they say, we need a new road, we need a new water project, we want to build an industrial park for new businesses. And this is what EDA does. So they're really locally controlled ideas, and a coming together of the federal government, the local government, the state government, the nonprofits, in a beautiful package that has resulted in millions of jobs over time since it started. So here's what I really want to say today as I go through my statement. The first thing I want to say is we know what the other side is doing. They are killing these jobs bills by a frivolous list of amendment after amendment after amendment that has nothing to do with the bill. And this isn't the first time. In this very spot, a few weeks ago, stood another senator with a Southern accent, Mary Landrieu, from Louisiana. She's the chairman of the Small Business Committee. She had a fantastic bill called SBIR. It's a Small Business Incubator Bill. That has been in place since the 80s, that program, brought to us by a Republican senator named Warren Rudman. Again, a bill that has always been without controversy. What did they do to that bill, my Republican friends? Death by filibuster, death by amendment, killed that jobs bill right here on the floor. And if you put that in the context of everything the Republicans have done since they picked up more seats around here and they took over the House, here's the list. They still haven't appointed conferees to the FAA conference. FAA, aviation, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA bill. That bill will create 280,000 jobs. It modernizes our airports. It gets rid of the old ways that we track planes and bring our air traffic control system into the 21st century. Senator Rockefeller has worked so hard. It's sitting over there waiting for conferees. I'm a conferee here on this side. I'm waiting to go get this bill done. It is essential. It has a passenger bill of rights attached to it, which is so important. It will make sure that our systems work properly. It will put in place safety features, jobs, jobs, and jobs. They haven't done a thing. The patent bill. I had some problems with the patent bill because I didn't like one or two provisions, but the bottom line is the patent bill is expected to create 300,000 jobs. It is sitting over in the House, no action. So since they took over, they've passed a bill to destroy Medicare, destroy education. It's known as their budget. But when it comes to jobs, there's no beef. And we are perplexed. Now, this bill has attached to it, the EDA bill, now, an ending of the ethanol subsidy. I happen to vote for that. The fact of the matter is, whether you support it or you didn't, it's going to save $3 billion. So now the EDA bill is not only a jobs bill that leverages billions of dollars to create jobs from the private sector, but it reduces the deficit because it has this amendment on ethanol. So I say to my friends who may be listening from their offices, when we come back next week, vote yes to cut off debate and get this bill done. Get this bill done. Now, I talked about the fact that Senate Republicans have supported this program continually. And I would like to show some of the statements, or tell you some of the things they said about the EDA. Remember, I'm quoting Senate Republicans who are trying to kill this bill by loading it up and filibustering it. 26 of the current Republican senators have made positive statements about EDA or put out great press releases in their states. And I agree with what they said. For example, Senator Cochran of Mississippi praised the EDA grant intended to help spur economic development in northeast Mississippi. He said, and I quote, "This region has suffered during the downturn, but the Three Rivers has been diligent about working to help jobs." This is what he said about an EDA grant. Senator Cornyn of Texas, he said $2 million EDA grant for water tower will pave the way for creation of new jobs and business opportunities in Palestine, Texas. But they're filibustering this bill. Senator Crapo says EDA business grants will help keep Idaho firms on the cutting edge in various fields. He says it can make Idaho firms successful, which translates into more jobs and revenue in Idaho. So my Republican friends, while they're trying to kill this bill by filibuster, have said laudatory things about the EDA. You explain it to me. You explain it to me. I think I have an answer as to why they're doing it, but I'll continue. Let's see what Senator Wicker said when he got a grant. These federal dollars will fund rail improvements and help bring new jobs and economic growth. I am glad the federal government has taken the step to continue its investment in South Mississippi's recovery, unquote. These are all the Republicans who are killing this bill with a filibuster. Senator Collins, $1.1 million grant to fund renovations at Loring Development Authority. She and Senator Snowe praised the EDA. They said this investment by EDA will allow for improvements and upgrades, which will in turn further business growth. Loring will continue to be an economic driver for the region, creating good jobs in Aroostook County. This is just a small sample of more than 20 Republican senators, more than 25, who have praised the EDA. And yet, each one of them seems to be supporting endless debate, amendments that have nothing to do with the bill. But they all have a chance to do the right thing on Tuesday and vote to cut off debate. We have had some tough amendments to this bill already. It's gone a couple of weeks. It's time we had a clean vote, because guess what? Jobs are what it's all about. So I'm going to not go on too much longer, but I felt it's important to explain to the American people, who, by the way, give Congress an 18% positive rating. Hello. Is it no wonder? We're doing nothing about jobs. Every time we try to do something, it's stymied. I laid out what they've done, the Republicans, and Medicare as we know it, by the way, passed a slew of abortion bills. It's really unbelievable to me. And these straightforward jobs bills go nowhere. So don't tell me you're for jobs and then come down to this floor and offer amendment after amendment on the prairie chicken, on the border fence, you know, on issue after issue that has nothing to do with this EDA bill. EDA creates a job for every $3,000 invested. That's incredibly good. We invest $3,000, a good-paying job comes about. Why? Because the matching funds come in. So this is the time we have a chance to create 200,000 jobs a year over the 5 years of this bill. So here's the thing. Again, we need, in these tough times, as we're going to get our arms around this deficit, and here's the thing I really find interesting. Lots of talk about how to cure the deficit from the other side, but they forget some of the easiest ways to do it. One is say to the billionaires, thank you very much, you've gotten millions back a year, let's just go back to your rates that you had when Bill Clinton was president. You made a fortune then, you'll still make a fortune, and help this deficit. Millionaires and billionaires. Oh, they don't want to do that, our friends on the other side. They want to destroy the EPA, they want to destroy the Department of Energy, they want to destroy the Department of Education, they want to destroy Medicare. That's their answer. Why? To pay for tax cuts for the richest of the richest of the richest. Explain to me how that helps the middle class in this great nation. Another way you want to cure the deficit and the debt, end the wars, end the combat missions, bring home the troops. Let's work diplomatically in Iraq and Afghanistan. I met with Afghanistan women who are struggling there. They don't want combat troops. They want help to get a peace process going, a peace and reconciliation process going. It's time to end the wars. Madam President, our Highway Trust Fund, which is so critical, is short $6 billion, and it is difficult. That's the trust fund that pays for the highways, for the bridges that are falling down, for the infrastructure improvement, for our transportation system. And I know it's hard to find $6 billion, but we're spending $12 billion a month on the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. Bring the money home. It's time we spend it in this country for our people. We're not going to walk away from our responsibilities. We're still going to have counterterrorism going on. We're still going to protect our personnel that are there. We're still going to work for peace and reconciliation. But you want to talk about the way to cure this deficit, it's not that hard. We did it before. We can do it again. The Democrats balanced the budget under Bill Clinton, the only time it was done in recent history, and we created 23 million jobs. Not by threatening Medicare and Social Security and the Department of Education and the EPA and the Clean Air Act and all the things they're going after there, but by doing the right thing by our children and our grandchildren and making the right investments to become energy independent. So for me, the argument of not being able to do anything because of the deficit, something's wrong with that argument. You have to cure the deficit problem and make the investments that make sense. And here's an investment that makes sense. For every dollar of EDA investment, you get $7 in private sector investment. That's what we ought to be doing. I already said this before, and I'll say it again. For every one job we create, it costs us approximately $3,000 per job. And these are good jobs. And this is a very, it's a smart program for us. That's why it's lasted since 1960s. I said before, up to 200,000 jobs a year could well be created here. 1 million jobs over the life of this bill. 1 million jobs over the life of this bill. What are we doing loading a beautiful bill like this down with all these extraneous amendments? So, we'll look at a couple of more charts. If you want to know how many jobs were created between '05 and 2010, 450,000 jobs, and 85,000 jobs were saved. So we're not talking about some ethereal idea of a new jobs bill. This is a jobs bill that's worked. And it's a jobs bill that shouldn't be filibustered, and it shouldn't be stalled, and it shouldn't be loaded up with things that have nothing to do with it, while the American people worry and give us an 18% approval rating. I'm surprised it's that high, the rate we're going. Look at some of the folks who support this. The United States Conference of Mayors, the American Public Works Association, the National Association of Counties, the AFL-CIO, the Council on Competitiveness, the Association of University Research Parks, the National Association of Development Organizations, the National Business Incubation Association, the State Science and Technology Institute, and an arm of the Chamber of Commerce that came in with a letter. I ask unanimous consent to place this in the record, Madam President.
Without objection.
It's a letter from an arm of the Chamber of Commerce. And I'll tell you, it's rare when you get AFL-CIO and an arm of the Chamber of Commerce singing from the same book. They don't want to see filibusters. They want to see jobs. They don't want to see filibusters. They want to see progress. They want to see us work across party lines. So I've kept asking during my remarks, why would they do this to us? Why would they do this to the American people? And I have an answer. I wish this wasn't true, but it's been stated by some of the Republican presidential candidates, and it has been stated by the Republican leader here. Their priority is defeating Barack Obama. Their priority is defeating our president. Their priority is not job creation. It is not business creation. It is not fair tax policy. It really is defeating this president. And when you look at it through that lens, then you say to yourself, wait a minute, if we got something done around here and the president had a signing ceremony like we used to do in the good old days when we worked together, and he had a Republican here and a Democrat here and an independent there, and we all came together like we always have. Unanimous consent, we passed this in '04. Unanimous consent. They're afraid that if we did that, the president would take out his pen and he'd sign this bill, and we create jobs. I hate to say it, but I'm not making it up. That's what they have said. And I just hope that over this weekend, when we go home and we meet with our people and they say, Senators, you've got to do something about jobs, I hope that the public will say to us, be we Democrats or Republicans, don't filibuster jobs bills. We can't afford to lose more jobs. We need to create jobs. And this EDA bill is a jobs bill. It was created as a jobs bill. It has been a jobs bill since 1965, signed by every president, passed by every Congress, never loaded down with amendment after amendment that's not germane, that weighs it down. And I hope that the people at home will pay attention to this. And I will say this is a pattern. This isn't the first bill. I told you the small business bill, same thing. FAA bill sitting over there, no conferees. Patent bill sitting over there, no action. And millions of jobs are at stake. I just found out about the small business bill that they killed here a few weeks ago. Each year, that bill provides support for 6,000 businesses. And over the lifetime of the program, it's provided assistance to 26,000 firms to help them get started. And that bill was filibustered to death. I don't get it, except if what I say is true. And that's what the motivation is. It's all I can come up with. I have looked into, really, I've looked into the hearts of my friends and wondered, how could they do this? They voted for this bill in committee. Why would they load it up like this and put all these amendments on? It's only one reason, to not make progress. And who gets hurt by that? They think the president. But I've got news for them. America is going to wake up, because I'm going to be here every day talking about this. I know my colleagues are going to be here talking about it. Jobs, jobs, and jobs. And I hope that this bill gets cloture and we can move on with it on Tuesday. That would be a wonderful thing. If we do that, that's a change in the atmosphere. And then we can pass this bill and get on with the next jobs bill, and pass that bill and get on to the next jobs bill, and the spirits of the people will be lifted. Look, we know government doesn't create the jobs. The private sector creates most of the jobs. But the beauty of bills like the SBA bill, that small business bill, private sector jobs. The beauty of this bill, private sector jobs. So it would lift the spirits of the people, instead of, you know, having them watch this, watch me, and think they'll never get together and do anything. And then I wouldn't be shocked if our, ratings in the Congress just hit the bottom of the barrel. They're already close. I hope that people will insist on our passing these jobs bills. Things are tough out there. People are unemployed, they're underemployed. Businesses are sitting on mounds of cash. They've learned to be able to be profitable without hiring more people. Things are shifting. The sands are shifting beneath the middle class. Thank God this president rescued the auto industry, and that we had a majority here to stand with him to do that. Thank goodness we took some of the steps that we took to get banks lending again when credit was frozen. But you know what? Our progress is being stymied because partisanship has taken over the process. And partisanship means when you get bills out of a committee, people who voted for them suddenly disappear, they're nowhere in sight, and they file all these amendments to bring down the bill. And now we only hope that when we come back next week, there'll be a change of heart. I certainly hope so, because I've been here a long time. I've been in the House 10 years here, a lot of years, since '93. I've served with Republican presidents and Democratic presidents. But I really want to say this. I fought hard when election time came. Boy, did I ever fight hard. I just had one. It was tough. Madam President, you know that. 2010 was tough. And every time we have elections, they're tough. That's the time that politics is in your blood, is in your veins. You're out there, you're working hard, you're fighting for your life. But when we're here, we have to do the people's business. And however we feel about who we want to be president, who we admire, who we don't admire, that ought to be left somewhere else. And I hope it will be left somewhere else. And I hope that on Tuesday we vote cloture on this EDA bill. I would hate to see this die. I would hate to see this die, because when you deal a death blow to the EDA, you deal a death blow to 1 million jobs. Thank you. I yield the floor and note the absence of the quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Akaka.
Madam President, I ask that the quorum call be vitiated.
Without objection.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I come to the floor today, as I do each week, as a doctor who practiced medicine in Wyoming for 25 years, as someone who's taken care of families all around the state of Wyoming, as a doctor who has great concerns about what's happened to the American health care system and will continue to happen under the health care law that has been passed by this body and signed into law at the insistence of this president. And I come as a doctor giving a second opinion because I have great concerns about this health care law, because in talking with patients and talking with doctors and just from my own personal knowledge, I believe that this health care law is going to be bad for patients, bad for providers, the nurses and the doctors who take care of those patients, and bad for the payers, the taxpayers of this country who are going to be left to pay the bill. And Madam President, recently my friends on the other side of the aisle have been using what I believe to be significant scare tactics about my party and Medicare. Medicare is the program for our senior citizens. And I believe it's important the American people receive the truth. They deserve to hear the truth about the future of Medicare, not scare tactics. The fact is, unless Congress takes action, Medicare will go broke in 13 years. In 13 years, Medicare will go broke. Today, more money is going out than is coming in. A bankrupt Medicare equals no Medicare for our seniors. These are people who paid into Medicare, but a bankrupt Medicare means no Medicare. If Washington doesn't show leadership now, today, this year, this program is going to run out of money and Medicare patients will run out of care. Now, many of my friends on the other side of the aisle continue to ignore the ticking clock and ignore reality. Well, let's take a look at some of the reality that the other side is ignoring. They're ignoring the fact that the life expectancy of the United States has risen significantly since Medicare was signed into law. When Medicare became a law, the average at that time was 1965. Life expectancy in the United States was about 70. So on average, you're talking about people being on Medicare for a certain number of years. Well, now through the advances in modern medicine, the life expectancy in the United States is almost 80. High 70s for men, low 80s for women, but it's about 80. People are living about 10 years longer now, on average, than they were at the time Medicare was signed into law in 1965. It's an undeniable fact. Another fact is the fact that there are about 10,000 people, new Medicare recipients, added to the rolls every day as baby boomers turn 65. An entire generation of baby boomers is retiring. The other side seems to ignore the fact that there are far more retirees today than ever before, and they are getting more money paid out of the program than they ever put in. Now, I have town hall meetings. I travel around the state of Wyoming, and people say, you know, I paid into Medicare, and they are absolutely right. On average, a couple that will be retiring this week has paid into Medicare about $110,000. That's over a lifetime of working. That's a significant amount of money they paid in. So what kind of services will they receive over the remainder of their lifetime? Adjusted for today's dollars, $343,000. So you're talking about $109,000 they paid into the system, taking out $343,000. Well, American seniors know that Medicare is in trouble. They understand that the math doesn't add up, that this $3 coming out for every $1 paid in cannot work forever.
My friends on the other side who attack Republicans for wanting to address this problem in a responsible way tend to want to ignore this reality. To make matters worse, members on the other side actually voted for a health care law that puts Medicare on an even faster track to bankruptcy. In fact, the President's health care law cuts $500 billion from Medicare. Not to save Medicare, not to strengthen Medicare, not to secure Medicare for the next generation. No. They took $500 billion from our seniors on Medicare to start a whole new government program for someone else. And so it was no surprise to me when I read recently that those folks who take a look at the numbers, work for the government, say Medicare is going to be broke 5 years sooner than even they had anticipated. It's odd how Democrats never even mention this when they attack Republican plans to save Medicare. Well, when they run advertisements and hold press conferences focused on scare tactics, why don't they ever explain their own $500 billion cut to Medicare? It's also odd to me that the Democrats never talk about the other very significant piece of the President's health care law that attacks our seniors on Medicare. Hidden away in the bill, it is called the President's Independent Payment Advisory Board, or IPAB. Now, as a doctor who's practiced medicine for 25 years in Casper, Wyoming, I can tell you what this board really is. It is a rationing board, a board to ration health care of our seniors in this country. Now, rationing, some may say, is a very strong word, but that is exactly what it is. The President's health care law puts Medicare on the road to rationing. This health care law creates an unelected, unaccountable board of Washington bureaucrats who will decide how much Medicare pays for certain Medicare services. Starting in 2014, after the next presidential election, starting in 2014, members of the board will decide how much they will reimburse hospitals, how much they will reimburse doctors for taking care of Medicare patients. Then, providers all across this country will have to decide whether or not they can continue to care for Americans' seniors. Let's face it, even today, doctors are running away from taking care of patients on Medicare. According to the American Medical Association, 1 in 3 primary care doctors already limits how many Medicare patients they are willing to see. According to the same survey from the American Medical Association, 60% of doctors say that they're looking for ways to get out of Medicare completely. So even more providers are going to stop seeing Medicare patients. This situation will continue to get worse. If you don't believe me, ask the seniors in your own community. When a doctor retires, ask somebody on Medicare how easy it is for them to find a doctor to take care of them. If they happen to be with a doctor and they turn 65, ask if they're allowed to stay with that doctor. Or if they move to another community to be closer to their children or grandchildren, ask them how easy it is or how difficult it is for those on Medicare to find a doctor. The reason, of course, is because Medicare pays a lot less than the going rate, but yet the Democrats and the President's solution is to pay even a lower amount and continuing to ration and ratchet down that amount, resulting significantly in additional rationing of care as our seniors find it harder and harder to find physicians and nurses to take care of them. The other thing about this rationing board is it actually gets worse when you take a look at the details. It will be practically impossible for this Congress or any Congress to overturn the rationing board's recommendations. Again, to me, it seems very odd that my friends on the other side of the aisle don't talk about this rationing board when they hold their Medicare events. But as Nancy Pelosi said, first you have to pass it before you get to find out what's in it. The American people continue to find out what's in this health care law and they continue to oppose it. I would say to my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, if you're so proud of the work you've done on Medicare, then you should stand up and defend this rationing board. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle should explain to American seniors how it will work and how it will impact their care. America deserves a thorough and honest debate about the future of Medicare and how we got to this point and how we can, in a responsible way, strengthen and secure Medicare for those on Medicare and for the next generation. Now, Madam President, I bring this all to you today because today a new study has come out in the New England Journal of Medicine, just came out today, and it has to do not with Medicare, a program for our seniors, but with Medicaid, a program for low income, and specifically, in many cases, for children. And the study from the New England Journal of Medicine today talks about how very difficult it is for people, specifically children on Medicaid, to even get an appointment to see a doctor. During the health care debate over the last year, I've come to the floor continuously, talked about the fact that many physicians refuse to take patients on Medicaid because the reimbursement from the government is lower than the cost of actually even treating the patient in terms of paying rent, office expenses, and other things. And this study out today, in today's New England Journal of Medicine, talks about researchers in Chicago who called a number of doctors' offices with identical voice, same person calling actually the same office a month apart with the same symptoms of the same child, whether it was asthma, different sorts of conditions, diabetes, a child for care. And the question came, have insurance? Are they on Medicaid? And what they found is that for 89% of those with insurance were able to get an appointment, regular insurance. Of those saying, no, we have Medicaid, and they called hundreds and hundreds of offices and clinics. For those on Medicaid, only 1 in 3 was able to get an appointment. I mean, think about that. And it's something for our seniors to think about as well, as the President's rationing board pays less and less for a visit to a doctor. And we've talked about the fact that Medicare rates, as a result of the $500 billion cut from Medicare, will be in many places similar to Medicaid rates. So I would assume that at some point very soon, seniors are going to have the exact same amount of trouble getting an appointment to see a physician as the New England Journal of Medicine found today for children on Medicaid. And with that, Madam President, I will say I will continue to come back to the Senate floor week after week with a doctor's second opinion about a health care law, because week after week we see new information, new relevant information about how the impact of this law, this broad, sweeping law, significant changes for the health care of all Americans, how it is, in my opinion, bad for patients, bad for providers, the nurses and doctors who take care of them, and bad for our taxpayers. With that, Madam President, I yield the